Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Mamaliez Wants to Learn. And today we're going to have a mental health series, and I have three very special people. One of them is my regular guest, Dr.Nina Hafetz, who came all the way from Qatar. And we're going to discuss a very important topic, which I'm going to share with you. I will introduce this group of people, what everybody needs ought to know about suicide. I feel that this is a discussion we need to bring up. Especially the last during the pandemic, there are a lot of cases. I myself, had these suicidal thoughts when I was depressed while I was living in Qatar. And if you've seen to my previous session, Dr. Nina Hafetz, who was in Qatar with me, has helped me through a lot. She is a clinical psychologist at School of Behavioral Science and Humanities, University of Ballarat, Australia. Now, another person I like to also introduce is KakNgah. Okay, also her name is Alia, but she's known as KakNgah. She is also actually childhood friend of Dr. Nina Hafetz, and Dr. Nina asked me to invite her, and I feel so honored to have her with us. She is a founder of Awareness Against Suicide Malaysia, AWAS, and a chairwoman for Yayasan Zuriat Care, AWAS Malaysia. And lastly, this wonderful, beautiful young lady that I met her to LinkedIn. I made a post about helping Ain Husniza, a 17-year-old girl who made her viral through TikTok because of her creating awareness or making school a safer place. So Hannah volunteered to help me on the donation campaign for Ain Husniza, and she is a founder of Tandamoy and Co. She's a social media and content specialist. She's a suicide survivor as well as advocate to mental health. So everybody, please welcome everyone here online. Let me on this one. I think I need to learn how to have that clap. Hi, KakNgah.
Hai, Mamaliez.
Hai, Assalamualaikum Mamaliez. Assalamualaikum KakNgah.
Salam, Dr. Nina.
Hai Hana.
Thank you so much for coming here. Today is the first time on Mamaliez Want to Learn show on Saturday. Usually I only have one guest, but today is the first time I have a panel, and all of them are so amazing women, powerful women, and I'm so happy to have all of you here today to talk about this topic. Okay, maybe you guys, before you go on and introduce yourself, I just want to say hello who is online here. There's Mahmet Tahir Agra. From Istanbul, Turkey. Hi, nice to meet you. And then we have also Lily Ko. Thank you for joining us. Let us know where you're tuning in from, whether you're in Malaysia or outside Malaysia. Let us know and your name, and whether you guys have any experience in about as relating to today's topic. So, okay, let's go ahead. Let's start with Dr. Nina. How about introducing yourself first?
Okay, first, thank you for having me again, Liz. You don't seem to be bored of me. But thank you for having me. Assalamualaikum to everyone, to the audience, to the panelists. I've heard amazing things about you all, mashallah. So I am a clinical psychologist. At the moment, I'm residing in Doha. And I think Liz and I knew each other from Doha, and she's invited me on a couple of her shows, and then now we're together doing the mental health series. So I have three beautiful children, alhamdulillah, and so that's that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Nina. Okay, how about KakNgah?
Hi. I lost my voice right there. Hi. Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. Mamaliez, Dr. Nina, Hannah, and everyone tuning in. I'm Alia, fondly known as KakNgah. why KakNgah is because KakNgah is a very special name. KakNgah provides me strength, so I love the name KakNgah now. Um, I am the founder of AWAS, or Awareness Against Suicide. The reason being why I founded AWAS, starting the first of MCO, first lockdown, that was, so AWAS is still new, still a baby, almost 2 years now. Yeah, 2 years. So I started AWAS because I am a suicide loss survivor. I've lost a loved one to suicide. So now through AWAS, I'm supporting people bereaved by suicide, as well as people who are dealing with not only suicide loss, but people who are struggling with suicidal thoughts and actions, and people who are, I want to normalize, I want change. As we know, Malaysia is still criminalizing people who attempt suicide, and that's a big issue for me. So yeah, that's why I found AWAS, and doing what I'm doing now. I'm a mom of two, two girls, and what else? I'm also real estate negotiator. So yeah, that's my profession.
All right. Thank you, KakNgah. Okay,
Thank
Hannah.
you.
Hi. So I guess this makes me the baby of this group. So I'm 28 this year, and yes, I met Liz through volunteering for a social media role to help her out with a fundraiser. But yeah, I've been a social media specialist for 5 years, a mental health patient for 7 years, and I've been an advocate for close to a decade because for me as a young adult, I've had a lot of experience with people who have either attempted or that includes myself at this point, but also who are dealing with either the mental health issues or challenges brought about by the MCO. And well, when Liz invited me to come on the show, I was definitely happy to do so. So thanks, Liz.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. Actually, Hannah also, like, I just met her about a week ago online, and when we talked and
Oh,
then we connected, and then she was sharing her story. I said, oh my God. And when she was sharing, I said, hey, you know what? By the way, I'm having this talk next week. Could you just join us?
1
She
week
just
notice.
like,
Yes.
I think it was just meant to be, we were connected for other things, but then, it's somehow related to this week. And I thought that everyone should hear her story, how she survived it and all, and maybe let's start the ball rolling. Uh, Maybe like, okay, I want to ask why usually, what are the causes people attempt to suicide?
Sorry, Liz.
Yeah.
Can we put up the disclaimer dulu, and
Oh,
then I
yeah,
can do
yes.
the
Okay.
verbal trigger warning?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me.
Thank you.
All right, here you go.
Okay.
Not this one. Wait, I did. This one tak nampak sangat.
I think you made it brighter. There's another slide.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Okay. So basically, on behalf of Liz, the show that Liz is presenting is really meant to be educational, and I think to create awareness for everyone out there regarding mental health and mental illness. So the information that we share, it's not going to be a substitute. It's not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice. So please don't rely on the contents of this show. Again, it is for awareness and for educational purposes only. So if you feel that you are affected somehow by the information presented in the show, or it's something that you relate to, please seek the guidance of your doctor, other qualified mental health professionals with any questions that you have, okay? And a verbal trigger warning for the audiences in this show: we will be talking about suicide, we will be talking about death, and it is going to be quite a heavy topic, but a topic that needs to be discussed regardless. And I hope that you are just well aware of the fact that we are going to be discussing those things, and to be prepared, or you may choose to maybe tune out if you want to. Okay. All right. Thank you, Liz.
Awesome. Thank God I have Dr. Nina. So it's an awesome Dr. Nina. Thank you
Liz
so much.
excited sebenarnya kan? You're too excited actually
Sampai
too.
terlupa. Disclaimer. Doktor kena remind ni kan, doktor kan. Yeah, that exactly just what Dr. Nina has mentioned. Why I do this today is really to create awareness on this topic, which is quite a taboo subject. People are not really wanting to talk about it openly, but is sometimes people just want to sweep it under the carpet. But then is you can hear now the last since the pandemic, there's so many cases going on, yeah, and not just in Malaysia but outside Malaysia. Going back to my first question, maybe I can start with Dr. Nina. What usually that causes people have this attempt to suicide or to go to have this kind of suicidal thoughts?
Okay, so before that, I'll share with you these statistics. So about 700,000 people a year die by suicide, and it is actually the fourth leading cause of death for 15 to 19-year-olds. So it is, I think, about 77% of suicides that are reported happen in countries, less developed countries. But again, the numbers are worrying, and I'm pretty sure the numbers have actually gone up because of COVID. And that is, so that brings us to the risk factor. So the number one risk factor for suicide is previous suicide attempts. So either one or more suicide attempts. So that person is at the highest list of being at risk for suicide. You have mental illness as a risk factor, so depression, anxiety, personality disorders. You have conflict, so conflict in war, conflict at home, conflict at the workplace, isolation. So isolation is a big risk factor. You have illnesses, that's a risk factor as well. Disaster, violence, abuse, relationship breakups, for example, a divorce, or just a breakdown in your relationships, chronic pain or illnesses, discrimination. So there are actually many reasons for why someone would have suicidal ideation. So suicidal ideation is when you have thoughts of suicide, and there are different degrees of suicidal ideation as well. So usually when a person comes in, one of the things that we will check up on is if they have ever had suicidal thoughts or if they have ever attempted suicide. That is something that we actually make sure we ask every person that comes through the door for a mental health professional. The other thing is you have, like I said, different levels of suicidal ideation. So they may have given it a thought and that's it. They may actually have given it a thought, including how they are going to do it. And then you have suicide ideation as well as attempts. So they've actually given it a thought. They've actually attempted with one or more methods, and so we also ask about frequency, how often they have thoughts of suicide. We ask about duration, how long they have those thoughts, how long those thoughts stay with them. Often we ask about what will trigger the thoughts of suicide.
Right.
So sometimes you'll have what people use the word impulsiveness, where they think it's a spur of the moment, and people just think, oh, okay, I'm just going to now commit suicide, But for others, they've actually thought about it for quite a while. It's something that they have given a lot of thought to, something that they don't actually tell others. There's stigma, there's taboo. Especially around mental illness. Some of them have actually thought about it and then tried telling others, but they tell others in their own way. So they may say something like, oh, I saw a post about a child, a teenager who has now passed. This is way back in 2014. And if you look at his Instagram account, he said things like, smile, you've lived, and there's a picture of him smiling, or my last meal, or he had a picture of a watch on his hand and he said, time to see if this is waterproof. And this teenager committed suicide by jumping off a bridge in Detroit, I think, into a river. And then it's only retrospectively that people look back and people go, oh, why didn't we see the signs? But sometimes it's hard to see the signs. And that's usually the guilt of the people who were left behind. So I think we're talking about what suicide is, what are the risk factors, but I don't want to make it as clinical as we have in our previous sessions. I think having the input from KakNgah, having sort of her awareness, her expertise, and obviously her hard work in making people aware of suicide, Hannah as well, and her experiences, I think that will really give us a very personal view of what it's like. So I'm just being cautious of being too clinical today. So we'll see.
No worries.
I look forward to hearing from KakNgah and Hannah, especially.
Yeah. So, okay, going forward from what you're saying, that those are the causes, even like the signs
Risk
that can
factors,
become
yes.
even the social media, and the risk
Yes.
factors, and in the social media, it can come out as well. I mean, sometimes people didn't think they can see it and all that.
That's
Okay,
right.
I just want to ask, maybe Hannah, can you share your experience with the audience? What went on with you and what happened?
Okay, let me think. So, I have actually, Alhamdulillah, I've not had any ideation for some time, but the last time this happened, I remember it was a really stressful time. It was during the pandemic, and I just remember feeling completely hopeless. I remember thinking to myself that this was never going to stop. This was never going to end. Because I couldn't do anything. And that's a recurring theme from everything I've ever read or heard. Most of the people I know who go through ideation, they just feel really hopeless. Because for myself, for my last attempt, it went past ideation and I actually had an attempt. And that's why it was so severe, because I went as far as to plan. So the planning phase is probably the point where I should have actually called my doctor and been like, okay, I need help. But it was just this overwhelming feeling of I couldn't do anything to change my situation. I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't change it. I couldn't help. And that is always the one feeling that leads to ideation, or pushes me from ideation to, because I've had several attempts before.
Right. Do you remember? Can you please share when was the first time that you actually had the ideation? At what age and what are the trigger factors?
15.
15.
Like, I can assure
Right.
15.
So, what was going on in your life at that time? Yeah, you were at school. Yeah.
Yeah, I was 15. It was PMR year. I just lost my dad. The year before, I lost my dad to cancer, and that year, it was rough. I didn't have any friends. I couldn't talk to anybody. Things were pretty hectic at home. Things were pretty bad at school. I just didn't feel like I could talk. And I just remember that was the year I was being bullied really badly. Like, having my classmates. I mean, I'm 15. This shouldn't be happening. But people were, like, taking my backpack. I had my bags thrown out the school window.
Oh.
And then things would just go missing. My things would go missing. I couldn't. I was gonna catcall or yelled at or make fun of as I would walk from classroom to team. So all of that happened for about a month straight, and that was the first time I remember having actual suicidal ideation.
And the second time, when was it?
After that, it just sort of became a recurring theme. Like every 3 months, it's like clockwork. You're like, oh,
Oh,
I kind of feel like I want to die today. Huh. And after a while, it became just really bad. And I think after my first major attempt, which was at 21, that's when I actually sought professional help and ended up getting diagnosed.
yeah. So you
Hannah,
were mentioning.
was
Yes.
anyone aware of your suicidal thoughts or your
My
attempts?
sister, my younger sister, was the one
I
who was the
see.
most aware,
I
but
see.
it wasn't exact. It didn't feel like it was safe to ask for help, because there was so much going on at home. There was so much going on in school. There was so much
Right.
going on. It just kept going until when I hit 21. That's kind of when the actual, because I've always had I have a history of self harm. I have a history of self
Right.
harm. I have a history of eating disorders. So it's kind of like
Right.
okay, but it
Right.
never went as far as to attempt until that 1 year. That's when I
Right.
Right. So you were mentioning that only your sister know about aware of
Yeah, only my
this,
sister was the one who was aware.
but you did mention to me before that. Yeah, but you were mentioning that your family, your mom, everybody was quite open in talking about mental health.
I mean,
Yes.
alhamdulillah, I come from a family that's quite open in terms of when I finally did ask for help, or they actually listened and said okay, fine. But that's also because we've had experience dealing with mental health issues as a family. So for myself, when I said okay, I need help, it was like talk. They had like the SOP already in place. Okay, this is the hospital.
Right.
This is the doctor. We're gonna do this.
Right. Right.
I've been seeing the same psychiatrist for 7 years.
Right.
So what happened next? Did you go to the hospital straight, or what was the next? Did you
When
meet
I
straight away
asked
the?
when I asked for help, I was sort of having that ideation, and I knew I was on the verge of trying again. That's when I asked for help, and I got an appointment, an emergency appointment. I think within the next 24 hours. By the next day or the day after, basically I was basically told to get in the car, go to the hospital, go talk to psych, and it was a complex appointment because they technically I was already an adult, so it wasn't like I was a teenager, like a 16, but my parents still came. They still spoke to my psychiatrist, and I asked the psychiatrist, and then from that it was like every week I was going.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that part.
It was like every week. I think for about 3 months, 2 to 3 months, I was going every week to see my psychiatrist to check if I was
Oh,
okay. And then it became okay for medication. Let's experiment until you get the right combination of medication because everyone's different.
right.
One type of antidepressant might not work, and I've been through situations where it was the wrong med because the doctor was like, okay, you're not getting better. Let's try this. This doesn't work. And sometimes when it doesn't work, it does have very adverse effects. But and then I had to change my meds. But now it's like everything's stable. But it took me 5 years to get stable.
Wow. That's amazing, Hannah, what you go through. And like you said, nobody will expect that you're going through looking at you now so beautiful. And people wouldn't expect, you know. Yeah, you are
Nobody
also
says,
calm
oh,
and
she's on every
collected.
antidepressants.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay, KakNgah, maybe could you share your experience? Maybe how you come about to uh, found ours. Maybe you could share with us why you start ours. Wait, you are
Sorry,
muted.
yeah, yeah, got that fixed. Yeah, first and foremost, it was, it was completely out of selfish reason. I must say, it was very personal. Um, um, I lost a loved one about 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, so almost a decade. But it was not easy. It was a really really, really tough journey. The part I hate most is the fact that I'm a psychology major. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and because of that, I blamed myself. The blame game, the self hatred, because whether because I didn't see the sign, or shall I say, I saw the signs, I just didn't recognize it as warnings, and for a long, long time I beat myself to it. I pretended, I shove it down, deny it, and pretended that I was okay. Yeah, and because and plus, by the way, I applaud you, Mamaliez and Dr. Nina, having this talk, this conversation. People don't like conversations about suicide. People are not comfortable. Especially the Malaysians, right? Like, or anywhere, but it's always like, what would people say? Apa orang kata? Apa orang kata? And I honestly became sick and tired of that. I got sick myself after dealing with the loss. I opened up a cafe, pretended that I was okay, running a business. I did not deal with my emotions. I did not deal with the loss, with the trauma. The loss was traumatic. About 10 years ago, there was you don't hear things like seek mental health help. Everything in the media or in the newspaper or the comments that people gave was neraka, neraka, hell, hell, hell. This person goes to hell. This person must be a low life. This person did this, and like everything was just awful, nasty judgments, and it was painful. It was painful to read. It was painful to look at, and yeah. So the grieving process was extended because of this, because people were just mean and unkind, and and on top of which, in Malaysia, almost 10 years ago, there was no support for suicide loss survivors. You cannot find. I honestly went to seek help. I mean, okay, if you were talking about personal help, like psychologists, psychiatrists, yes, you can find. But as far as like support group, or association helping or supporting the suicide loss survivors or people bereaved by suicide, there was none. So because of that, I started Awas, simply because actually I started it with anonymously. I did during MCO. I felt like I was better after the diagnosis in 2019. I went to get for help. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I was dealing with a lot of things. It became like what happened to me was, it was like a what do you call this, volcano. Like the magma, everything was boiling deep down, and suddenly another loss happened, a natural loss. I lost my dad to cancer, and suddenly everything exploded. Like the things that I did not deal with, like many, many, many years ago, everything erupted, and it just blew up, and everything became really awful. I started having panic attacks. I couldn't drive. I was driving on the highway, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. I got scared. There, nobody was disturbing me. No honking, no nothing. No nothing. I had to pull over and calm myself down. And I got really worried. I was sweating. And all that. So, anyways, I'm all jumbled up. My stories are all jumbled up here. But the point is, I guess, I went to seek help because I was struggling with suicidal thoughts myself. I was not suicidal in action, but I was having a lot of intrusive suicidal thoughts, like I'm better off not alive, my kids will be better off without me, things like that, because the sense of hopelessness, the sense of guilt and shame, and not being able to talk about this. People don't want to talk about this. Not having the space, the safe space to discuss about these feelings, this loss, so I decided to create my own thing through Facebook and Instagram. I started Awas. At first it was just anonymously, but amazing things happened. People reached out to me, people from all over the world, DM me and connected with me and said, thank you for your post. I could relate with your post. I just lost my dad to suicide. I just lost my friend to suicide. So so it became a little community. And then I felt like, hey, there's a need here in Malaysia, because there's no support group whatsoever in Malaysia. And I said, yeah, I just have to push myself and be brave enough to talk about this, because I tried really hard to find another Malaysian who is a suicide loss survivor, but it seems like it's really hard to find one. And if I found one, like, they refuse to really, like, um share or be in the support group. So yeah, so I told myself I had to be the first one to do this. It's not something people do, but it's something I have to do. I want change. I want stigma to stop. Um, I want people to stop being nasty to each other. I want people to get help, and not wait for until it's too late. Yeah, so that's a little.
Thank you.
I'll
Yeah,
continue.
that's amazing, KakNgah. Thank you for sharing that story, how you started. It is very, very important, because uh, I think I think it's because our belief system that we have is, even in our as a Muslim, we say that this if we try to commit suicide, is we masuk neraka, is haram. You already against Allah's wish and all that. So I guess people, if you even you want to say about it, but hey, apa ni kan? So I think it's natural for people to just stigmatize and, hey, don't talk about this. We're not supposed to talk about this. Yeah,
Right.
Dr. Nina, maybe you guys, maybe you can share. I
If
want to ask the
sorry.
audience, our audience first. Do you guys face this kind of thing? Are you able to talk this kind of difficult topic like suicide? And then if you know of anyone who went through that, or you know everyone being judged by that, yes, yeah, just like Halima was saying, stigmatizing is inevitable on societal issues. Like example, like you're as someone that you lost from, you get the effect of people around you. Did you feel that people try, sometimes some of them been judging you? KakNgah, was that something that a lot of family that had cases who came from us, who has one of their family members who had a suicide, and then they had been stigmatized, or people looked at or them or something like that, or judge them in certain way. Does that happen?
Right. See, the thing about, again, I can only say this in the Malaysian context lah, because I live in Malaysia, and I went through all this when I was in Malaysia, right, during this time. So the problem with Malaysian is they don't say it to your face, but they say behind the screen. They say all these nasty things. But as far as people treating you in such a way or such a manner, um, close people around me, they were avoiding it, like it's their own way of, I guess, not dealing with it, because maybe they're embarrassed too, or maybe they feel like it's better not to talk about it. Maybe she would feel sad, or I don't know what. But the fact that, because of the depression and anxiety, because of the shame, and because it's such a taboo subject, I feel like I was constantly having a signboard on my head, like saying, like, the suicide loss survivor. And all I needed was to reach out to talk about it in a safe manner. But because everyone is refusing to talk about it, or refusing to, they didn't feel comfortable enough to talk about it, it's a good enough way to tell me that, you know it's stigma in itself. The fact that people are not comfortable, they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to address it. Even, and I'm talking about, even if I try to, you know. So yeah, I guess what we're doing right now, right, is normalizing these conversations. We're not encouraging suicide. No, definitely not. But we're encouraging people to talk about mental health, because at the end of the day, it's about illness. People are tadi when you talk about neraka and all that, right? I before I started this advocacy work, I seek for Ustaz's opinion. I said, Ustaz, I need to do this. I feel like there are a lot of people who are suffering, because for everyone who every suicide loss survivors, right? There are many people around them who are struggling, who are suffering, who cannot talk about this, right? Because of the stigma and taboo and shame and all that. So these people are also at risk of suicide themselves if they are not being supported. So for every
Yeah.
one suicide case, there are so many people around it who are suffering. And I said, I want to do this support group. And Ustad said, yeah, it's fardu kifayah upon Muslims, not upon you, KakNgah, but upon Muslims. And because we don't have it, we need to have this kind of support. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a green light for me. It doesn't matter if people are not comfortable about it, but we need to do this, so that we can stop. Yeah, I'm going to mute now.
So we have here Abdul Ghani was saying, I lost my sister, my younger brother, nephew last month due to COVID. Yes, I have to take therapy. Abdul Ghani, that's amazing that you're willing to go and seek help. Yeah, like if you don't, and would there be cases of, that's also a form of trauma, right, Dr. Nina? If people are facing this kind of big losses through COVID, that could be a trigger point if they don't seek therapy. Is that right, Dr. Nina? Wait, you're muted. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So yes, it is a trigger point, as KakNgah was saying. Surrounding one person who's a suicide loss survivor, there are others around them that also need help. I think when she said that people, because I'm a suicide loss survivor, and it's happened a long time ago, but it's still very hard to talk about. It's
Wow.
The emotions are still raw.
Wow.
The thoughts that you have are around, why didn't I see it? What could I have done? What caused that person to take that action? What pushed them to go to that action? But for the ones who are suicide loss survivors, they carry a lot of guilt, because, and especially if this person was practically family to me. As far as I was concerned, this person was family. I said I wasn't gonna. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I have a whole box of tissues ready, because it's really hard. And then like I said, it's the guilt that you feel, the emotions that you feel that are raw. It's very hard to see, if it ever got into the news, like the cases nowadays, the media are reporting them. It's very important for the media to also phrase the words, or how they use what they say in the reporting, because it leads to different things. So you get, now that people feel free to say things on social media, they'll say things like, oh, that person was so weak, oh, that person decided to do that just over one thing. But the thing is, it's not over one thing. It's actually an accumulation of a lot of things. And this person fought so hard, and probably made attempts to cry for help or to tell people that they need help. But again, with the stigma that surrounds it, sometimes families don't quite understand it. Sometimes if you as a person have never thought about attempting suicide, if it hasn't never occurred to you, but never say never, but it has never occurred to you, it's actually very hard to understand why another person would do that. But you are not in their shoes. You are not experiencing whatever they are experiencing. I know of a case where this person was diagnosed with major depression, and this person kept saying, "It's so painful, it's so painful, it's so painful, I can't stand it anymore." And often we think that it's mental anguish. It's not just mental anguish. In some, in individuals with depression, they actually feel legit physical pain. The physical pain is so immense, that they cannot stand that physical pain. And so they feel like suicide is a solution. It solves their problem. It solves everybody else's problem. Because, like Hannah say, the feeling of hopelessness, you feel like, nobody, you can't do anything more. There's nothing else that you can do. You've hit a wall, okay, and you're stuck. You're stuck there. You're drowning, but nobody seems to notice, right?
Or like
You put on.
Dr. Nina, I mean, a lot of mental health patients also feel like a burden on their families.
That's right.
or
That's
people
right.
around
That
them.
was what I was getting to. They feel like they are a burden, that people are going to be better off without them. And they truly believe that. No matter how much you try and convince them, they actually really believe that they are a burden. Everybody's lives are going to be so much easier if I wasn't in it. If I wasn't in their lives, it would be so much easier. It would solve all the problems. My problems, their problems, and often people say, oh, it's so selfish of you to do that. If you have thoughts of suicide, that's very selfish of you. Think about your mom, think about your dad, think about your family. It's not selfish. It's not a selfish act, really. They are in so much pain. But again, a lot of mental illness is a hidden disability. Like Hannah can walk around, with her family, looking happy, going for an outing, having lunch, having a picnic, but you have no idea what actually goes on inside. I know Hannah will be very familiar with this as well. You put up a front, you put on a mask, you put makeup on your face, you go out and you're functioning, but you are so exhausted, just from thinking of, you ruminate and you think about a lot of thoughts in your head, and they just simply go round and round and round. There's no outlet. On top of that, when some of the suicide survivors, attempt to communicate, especially to family members or friends, the thing we always do is, because it's such a scary thought to the rest of us, right? You almost always don't want to think of that possibility, right? People know that's no way that you can go that far. Sometimes they're accused of being dramatic. They're being accused of being emotional. Sometimes they're accused of being attention seeking. Nobody wakes up wanting to die. That's not a normal way to think, right? So for them to actually get to that point, please be compassionate and please understand when someone reaches out to you. First of all, if they already think they're a burden, it's so hard for them to actually seek help and say to you, I need help, can you do something? Why? Because now they're an additional burden. Now they're seeking help from you. Not only are they already a burden, now they're seeking help from you. Right? So that in itself is already very difficult. So they are very isolated with their illness. Often the people around them think, oh, it's just a thought, and they say, oh, just don't think about it. It's not that easy. It's actually not that easy. So you might get individuals who self-harm, and Hannah has, shared that with us. Sometimes the attempt is by putting posts online, and they may say things like I said just now about this young boy who said, smile, you've lived. And often we don't really think too much into it, but this is them asking for help. So the awareness, I had a lady who had texted me when she knew about this show, and she had just experienced a loss herself. And I'm so sorry for your loss. And I'm so sorry for Abdul Ghani Mintal's loss as well. To lose 3 family members, all assuming within, close to each other. That is very, very devastating. And often we think, well, family members are gonna be able to cope. No, they it took me a while to
He's
cope.
also a cancer survivor. Yeah.
Mashallah.
Sorry.
Um, it takes a while. I couldn't function for a while. I had to just cancel everything. At any it was very triggering. I couldn't watch movies or shows or anything that would trigger me to my thoughts again, or to my memory of this person, and it still is as raw as it was on the day that I got that phone call. And so it's hard. It's hard. Nobody wants to listen to you talk about this. Like KakNgah was saying, nobody, people don't know how to approach you. It's so scary for most people, and I get that. It is a scary topic, but please understand that people who have experienced this loss need to talk about it. They need to talk about this person's life, the memories of this person, and not to be blamed and go, how come you didn't pick it up? How come you didn't see it? Or, like in
It
KakNgah's
must
case,
be it must be hard for you, Dr. Nina, because you're a psychologist. Yeah. You,
yeah, yeah,
you would probably you have thought to yourself, I should have known the science better than
yeah,
anybody
I
else.
wasn't, I wasn't, yeah, I wasn't in Malaysia at the time, so I was out away, and I think the contact that I had was
Yeah.
very much reduced, with this individual.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine how painful it must have been for this person to have gone through what they've gone through in terms of the mental anguish and the. Um, but yeah,
Thank you
even
for
as a psychologist, you're still affected by it. You are
yeah.
still,
You're
like I
still
said,
human. You're still
yeah.
human.
Yeah,
You're
but I
still
really,
human.
KakNgah, sorry, I really commend your effort. And Hannah, it's not easy to come online, and put yourself out there to talk about your experience. And even after we've talked about this, there will still be people who will think, oh, you're weak, or you're not strong enough, or everybody goes through a loss, or a death in the family. Everybody's going through it. They seem okay, or oh, what a silly thing to do, and all that. Please refrain from saying those things. If you don't have anything compassionate to say, please don't say it. Please don't
Yeah.
say it, because you don't know. And I hope and I wish that you never have to experience it, but it changes you. It changes your outlook on things. And it's like I said, it's still raw. It's still raw to this day. It's
Yeah.
still raw to this day.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry that you my condolences to you, Dr. Nina. I don't know. This is today first time I hear you share this to me. I thank you really
Thank
for
you.
sharing with us yourself to us. Hannah, like we were talking about being stigmatized, and I know I was wondering, I'm sure you went through, did you go through that kind of people being stigmatizing you? Can you please share with us your own experience before and after, whatever, during all your
Definitely.
times? Yeah, yeah.
Well, like KakNgah was saying, 10 years ago there was no support group. It was really hard to find any sort of support for mental health, let alone someone who had survived the loss of a loved one. But as a mental health patient, and as somebody who has tried, I've lost friends. I've lost the respect of people. I've lost opportunities, knowing that when people find out, they're like, oh, you know, you're like that. You're just being dramatic. You are such a drama queen. Like, your life isn't that hard. Do you have a job? Did you go to school? All these comments. And now with social media, yes, Malaysians in particular, they are horrible. There's no empathy. There's no compassion. I mean, and behind the safety of a computer screen, people feel like they can say whatever they want. I got doxxed 2 years ago. And by doxxed, that means that they take all your personal information and they put it up online for malicious reasons. That happened. And one of the things that came out was the fact that I've got the mental illness and that I have attempted. They're like, oh, tak kesian, tak kesian mak dia. Kesian mak dia because she's so like this. So I'm really grateful that I have a partner who is compassionate because I've had partners who were, your family is one thing, your friends are one thing, but to have, like, say, a romantic partner, and they don't feel sorry for you. In fact, they're the ones telling you to suck it up, to get over it. That sort of stigma is still exists. In fact, post-pandemic, it's even worse. So now it's just, I've learned to just ignore it. I've learned to just pretend it doesn't exist. I don't really pretend it doesn't exist, but if these are people who don't contribute to my life, or I don't have to interact with them, I don't. It's like, okay.
And you think it's still going on like that even now today?
I know it's still going on. Like once in a blue moon, or once whenever morbid curiosity, right? I will check those old hashtags because they actually created a trending hashtag. I was having, the stigma got bad enough that there were Instagram posts about how I should go and commit suicide. They were like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you want to? Fine, sure. Here's an Instagram post. I had the screenshot to this day as a reminder that these people are not my friends. These people, I don't need to interact with. And it was like, I think they were going out of their way to come up with the most horrible ones. It was hang yourself this way or jump out of a building. And it's like there were people actually voting. So I just remember looking at it going, oh God.
You mean they actually do that online to suggest you do this, or else you just jump out?
Instagram poll, right? I mean, because I used to be a social media influencer, right? So I was in the public eye. And that said, they would say, okay, she's depressed. She wants to go and do this. Let's take a vote. How should she do it? What's your thought? And I'm like,
oh my God.
Is this actually online? Is this actually online? This is 2018, 2019. So
That should be criminalized.
yeah,
that's the bit that should be criminalized. Not the people who are trying so hard to fight their mental anguish and their pain. That bit should be criminalized, really. For egging people on, for actually coming up with a poll on, what's the best way.
1 month of this, it was like every week there was one, and I was just like, I think I actually went offline for 3 months just because I couldn't deal with it. But yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah, you're right, Dr. Nina. Maybe in Malaysia, so it's suicide attempts are criminalized, right? So what do any of you know what happens if someone get attempted suicide and the police is there? What happened to that person?
You get whipped 5 times, five lashes of the whip, 7 years in jail, 20,000 ringgit fine max. Oh, I remember.
Oh my goodness. So do they, like in your case, Hannah, because you were volunteer to get help, right? But if those who do it in the midst of that, they get cash, I don't know whether they get any kind of.
I survived my attempt, right? Like either for me it's like I was stopped right before, or in the case of Rasa, I was stopped. I survived my attempt. But people who get caught midway through, that's what I've heard stories that they just get carted off to lockup.
Lockup first without getting them any psychologist to see them?
How do you do? They just get yanked off to the lockup, or they just basically get carted off. Because if you're caught, because I've been the person that receives that phone call. I've been the person who gets the phone call from the friend who says, I'm at the edge of a building, I'm going to jump. And I'm the one going, okay, no, let's not do that. But I'm the one who also tells them, please don't do that. And if anything, just don't get caught. Please don't get caught, because it will not work out in your favor. And it's pretty much, that's what happens.
Hello? Sorry. I think my line went off. Yeah. So So that means if they get caught, they go straight into jail and no one will really attend to them.
From we don't know if the police get involved, nobody actually knows the full details. But and for myself, I don't know anybody who has, like, not personally. But
KakNgah, have you heard any kind of cases like this? If somebody get caught by the police suicide attempt, do you know how do they act? I mean, is anyone supporting them or straight do they? What is their SOP?
Okay. What I know is that if you get caught, right, in the act, the police will come and catch you, and you will be prosecuted. Either Hannah, correct me if I'm wrong. I've never heard about the weeping and all that. I don't know that, but all I know is that they will be prosecuted, either fined or jailed or both, depending on the severity or whatnot. I don't know.
I believe the whipping was a few years back. They might have rectified it, but
Okay.
definitely the fine can go towards. I believe the upper limit is 20,000 ringgit.
Okay, I don't know exactly the amount. Yeah, but it's always safer. Like people looking for help or people in need of help, right? It's always safer to not go to the police. In this case, please hate. If anyone is listening or anyone who is struggling, who is trying to attempt or anything like that, please do not. It's better for them, have some kindness in your heart and compassion. It's better for them to be taken to the hospital, to the emergency department rather than police, because once they are in the police custody, then they're going to be treated like a criminal. Under Section 309, Kanun Kesiksaan 309, Malaysia is still prosecuting suicide attempts. There are a lot of NGOs on the ground who are trying to get the government to decriminalize suicide.
Decriminalize it.
And actually, Singapore, our neighbor country, have decriminalized suicide
Decriminalize.
on the 1st of January 2020, quite recently. I think it's quite a surprise for a lot of people because, knowing Singapore, it's very advanced and very, but yeah, they just recently decriminalized suicide. And I think that's exactly what Malaysia should do. We should do the same. We should do the same. It's an archaic law that is not relevant anymore. People need to change. The law needs to change, evolve around time. And
Yeah.
people are getting really, because of COVID and everything, people are really in distress, in duress and all that. And, how are they,
Maybe I really would like to know further. Maybe I will do some digging and further investigation. What is your SOP, right? If that person in the end they get caught, right? Before they save, the police save them. I wonder what is the first thing the police would do? Masuk lockup or jumpa psychologist?
tak
That's what I
ada.
want to know.
Tak ada psychologist. Mental health is not in the picture.
Memang
Zero.
Oh, straight
Tak
away
ada.
masuk lockup.
Yeah.
Get put in cuffs, put in the van.
Oh my
Okay,
God, that's
sometimes,
crazy.
yeah, it sounds absurd, right? Kita tak percaya kan, but this is happening at the moment. Okay, contoh macam a lot of suicide cases in Malaysia, bomber akan tolong. The bomber will
Right.
come, the fireman will come and
Try to rescue him.
try to rescue them, right? So the bomber, the fireman, they have to pass the person to the police. It's the law.
Oh
So
my
nobody has the right
God.
to nobody can take them to the hospital couple once they are found or in the act trying to attempt suicide.
Oh my
There's no
God.
way. Yes.
So I'm sure there were a lot of cases in the jail. They try to attempt again inside the jail to kill themselves. I mean, right? To suicide.
That's why you're taken. That's why they keep like sharp objects away from you. You don't wear shoes. I mean, you're not allowed personal items. That's a risk. I mean, even in American prisons, they take away all these things because the worry is that you'll actually commit suicide. But
Hannah,
here,
Not just prison, even in the mental health
Even lockup.
ward, in the psychiatric
Yeah,
wards also too, right?
I've been. I didn't have.
Okay, that's another thing I want to ask you, Hannah. Please do share your experience because you did mention that when you seek help, you did go to these
I was warded.
homes. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
can you
I was in the whole.
share
I
your
was in the
experience of
rehabilitation
being?
home, and I was in the. Definitely. I would probably end up if I had a choice, if I could go back and choose, I'd definitely have chosen the ward, and not the home, because the home these rehabilitation homes, right? They're largely independent. Um, there's no one
They are
set
private.
rule.
Are they private sectors?
Yes,
Private
yes, they
rehabilitation
are.
home? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Majority are. The majority are, and that's why the treatment you get in the home varies so much. There are the ones that cost you in upwards of 24,000 a month, and then there are the ones that don't cost that much, and then the treatment's very different.
All
But
right.
it's very it varies. So for me, being in the ward, yeah, I definitely got better. I appreciated the routine because I think that's the core part of it. Create routine.
Yeah. So can can you yet share your experience why you didn't want to stay in this private rehabilitation home? What happened there? Like you were mentioning that you had no mobile phone and all that. Can you just share
Yeah,
what happened?
definitely
Yeah.
in the wards you don't have a mobile, you don't have a phone either, and but private homes. I can't speak for every single private home out there, but where I was, it wasn't great because it was quite like yes, there was a routine, but the concept of having to earn the right to see my family, to have limited. I couldn't get any visitation hours because apparently they wanted me to acclimatize, and I didn't acclimatize within 2 weeks. So that being said, I did have an episode. I did end up in the ward, and 3 days later, I was discharged. So yeah, that was the whole of December 2018 for me.
So and you preferred being warded rather than being in the private these homes because in wards they give you a better treatment and routines that helps you more.
It's more standardized. Um, Again, I can't speak for every single private home. I've heard there are private rehabilitation centers like the Wave Clinic where that's 22,000 ringgit a month, and the one that I was at was definitely not 22,000 ringgit a month. It was very different. I've heard stories about different ones. I do know somebody who has been to at least half of the rehabilitation homes in the country at this point. She told me some horror stories, so I'm just like, okay, right. So again, my stint there wasn't great, but I know it could have been worse. Could have been better, but it also could have been much worse.
Right. So we don't know what are the statistics. Most of the people who are able to recover better in these homes. Like I think you mentioned to me there's one of them who stayed there for 20 years or so.
Yeah, she's a ward of the state now. She's in her 30s. When I was there, she was already in her 30s, but apparently she had been there for 20 years. She'd been a resident for 20 years.
That's crazy. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Hannah. Okay, KakNgah, can you maybe share? Dr. Nina, earlier you were mentioning this one. Someone was sharing about the recent cases of suicide who jumped off the building, and KakNgah, you were mentioning also that how you did support of the community. How you guys? Maybe you guys can both share. What went on, what happened, and how was the support there on the community and on those who survived suicide loss survivor also as well as the community. Uh, Maybe Dr. Nina, you want to share first on what you about the recent case? Wait.
You're muted.
I'm gonna unmute myself. Sorry. So first up, before that, I'm just gonna say to Hannah that you are amazing. I think you've gone through a lot. I think you didn't deserve a lot of the things. You really didn't deserve everything that, those bad things that they had said to you. I think one of the things, if you're going to be of help, okay, it's hard to stop someone from having those thoughts, but you can still try and help them. You can still do mental health checks with them. We talked about in the last few sessions that I had with you, Liz, about risk factors, right? We've talked about, signs. The lady that had contacted me, she wanted to know, how can I stop this from happening to another person? And I think what KakNgah is doing is, of course, giving space to suicide survivors, suicide um, survivors or family who have experienced it, to talk about that, in a safe space, to be heard, to be understood, to be shown compassion, to be shown empathy. I think the mental health check is very important for us to do. If you're going to check on your neighbor because you notice that their car hasn't moved from their garage for 3 days, or you notice that there's no activity, or if you notice your friend, for example, or family members are withdrawing, or are more quiet than usual, or has just experienced a significant life-changing event, please check on them. Please check on them. You're not ultimately, this is not saying that if you didn't check on them, that their suicide is on you, that you're ultimately responsible. No, there's so many factors that surround a person who choose to choose suicide, as a way for them to relieve their suffering, right? So look out for people around, look out for your family members, colleagues, and friends. If we do that together, talk about difficult issues, make it a to talk about these things in families, to talk about these things, check on your teenagers. They're going through a lot of hormonal changes, and then there's life-changing events, whether they move countries, or there is a significant loss in the family, or significant death, divorce, for example, or domestic abuse, for example, mental illness in itself. In this time of MCO, people are driven to suicide, because for them that seems like the only way out, that seems like the only option. So that, and like I said, if you look closer, when you're looking at someone, when you're asking someone, how are you, it's not just, how are you, I'm fine, thank you. No, if you really care, ask them again, no, how are you, really, how are you? Because we often think people don't want to listen to our problems, people don't want to listen to our burdens, and so if they don't ask, it's easy for that person to think, oh, they don't care. Sometimes they do care, but they don't know how to ask, they don't know how to approach a person. So maybe a lot of this awareness, a lot of what we're doing, will get people to engage in these conversations. To bring up Hannah, is very fortunate that her family participate in mental health talks and mental health issues, and are open about it. But I can tell you, your family is very rare, very, very, like 1 in a million. For a lot of families, it's scary. We often talk about, if you are a parent, you often talk about your children and what they're going to be and what they're going to do. And you tell them to be kind, and you tell them to be polite, and, you tell them to show compassion, and you tell them to reach for their goals and reach for their dreams. It's great that you do that. But maybe also focus on the present and ask them, how are you at school? How are you with your studies? How are you what's hard for you? Is there anything that you want to talk about? Is there anything that you want to share with me? Is there anything that I can help you with? Okay, check on them. Notice when they're eating less, when they're eating too much, when they're sleeping less, when they're sleeping too much. Notice when they no longer want to engage in activities that they usually do, things that they used to like, they don't. Look at them and notice if there are cuts on their bodies, cuts that they try to explain away and they get nervous about. Sometimes, a cry for help is usually they hide the cuts, but maybe a cry for help is when they actually make you on purpose notice the cuts that they do, because that's their only way of asking how to ask for help. There are some who do what I call bargaining. So they might decide that today is the day that I resolve my issues, okay? And that is through suicide. Now, sometimes what they will do is they will say to themselves, tell themselves, okay, if I walk along this road, if one person smiles at me, then I won't jump off the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Or if one person says hi to me, if I go out and I walk and one person, says hi to me or greets me nicely, then it's a good day. Then it's not. Then I won't go through with it. But the thing is, we often don't look enough. We don't see. So it doesn't occur to you to ask them this kind of questions, But they're also going through so much that it doesn't occur to them that maybe people won't know what is in your mind right now. Often you will see suicide loss survivors and families will say, "Oh, she had a problem, or he had a problem for a bit, and then I think it got resolved because they were happier. They became happy. They wanted to go out. They asked to go out to a restaurant to eat, and they went out to meet all their friends. They haven't gone to meet their friends for so long, and then they suicide. And then you're left with, hang on a minute, we thought they were okay. He was going out with friends and she was meeting up her colleagues, or she bought gifts for everyone, and wrote beautiful cards for everyone. And then you realize it's them saying goodbye."
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay, Dr. Nina.
So sometimes you see the signs, and sometimes we try to be optimistic for people, and we do look at them and we do see them. We think, oh, I think he's okay now. I think she's okay now. She's resolved her issues. They're going out now. But it's only because in their minds, they know now. They know this one way out that is going to end all their problems. And so they're happy because they found the solution. And yes, and then so you see that, and you, of course, retrospectively, you're thinking about so many things now. But this is the thing. I think we need to not just look, we need to really see. I do mental health checks with my kids all the time, and my kids are like, "Why are you asking me this? I am fine and I'm this and that." I said, "I'm happy and glad that you are fine, but you know what? You're not always going to be fine. Things are going to happen. Things are going to come up. You're going to have challenges and stuff. And I just want you to know that you can talk to me about it. You can bring that up and you're not alone. And I'll be here. I'll help you as much as I can. I'll get other people to help you as well. We'll find people to help you as well. You're not alone in this." They often feel like they are alone. And that sense of helplessness blankets everything else. They can't see straight. The only way they want is the only solution for them is, I just want to end this pain, because it's a lot of pain. It's a lot of pain. Like I say, you don't know what's going on. But maybe try. Maybe, be a bit people, but in a good way. And always assure them whatever it is, you come talk to me. You
Yeah.
come tell me. We will figure this out. We will work something out.
Yeah.
In young children, it's always bullying. In Hannah's case, it must have been so difficult, for your bag to go missing or to be misplaced or for things to go missing and all of that. And, if the teachers are not doing something about it, if she can't feel that she can talk to someone and stuff, that's really hard on a 15-year-old. The last thing you want to feel is people ostracizing you and people bullying you and people pushing you aside, whether the abuse is physical, or verbal or emotional or psychological. And that's the worst thing. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. And you feel like, what's the point? Like, why what's the point? Like, I can't see. And some will say, I can't see beyond next week.
Mm.
There's
Yeah.
nothing to look forward to because everything is so bleak. Everything, it's one thing after another, just pounding, 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 and nobody is helping them. Nobody even realizes, or sometimes people just trivialize it and go, "Oh, I'm sure they were just joking. They were just playing with you. They were just joking and
Yeah.
teasing you. That's what kids do." No, as an adult, if you see that happening at schools, please step in. Please do something about it because the effect, is compounded, and then it just accumulates. And of course, the person who's going through this just feels like, oh, everybody seems strong. I need to be strong. Everybody is okay
Yeah.
with it. I need to be okay with this. Why am I not okay with this? And they try, and it's not that they never tried. They try so hard. They try
Yeah.
really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
And then it's just maybe one event or something that pushes them. Again, it's not necessarily anyone's fault. Like COVID, isn't necessarily anyone's fault, but it just happens. It just happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very important, to always able to have this open discussion like what we have today, you know. And thank you, Nina, for really sharing us your heartfelt message and insights. KakNgah, maybe you would like to share also uh, on the cases right you were handling on how you were sharing about all the community support. Maybe you can share with us how you guys did it on
Okay.
like the latest case. Yeah.
Sure. Before that, thank you, Mamaliez. Before that, before we end this whole thing,
Yeah.
may I share a poetry later on towards the end?
Yes,
Uh,
that will be our closing ceremony. Jewa.
okay. Okay, wow. Okay, good. I would love to share my poem. It's yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, regarding that, it's called postvention. We hear a lot of suicide awareness programs. We hear a lot of suicide prevention programs, right? What we don't hear so much, especially in Malaysia, I don't know about for you, Dr. Nina in Qatar. Perhaps it's better. I don't know. There, postvention is another thing that people don't talk about. That people don't know. People are not aware about. Postvention support is specifically for the community who have lost um, to suicide. Let's say, for instance, a taman, a condominium, or
Can I share
yeah,
this?
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. So it says, okay, like postvention to provide postvention support, right? Support group that we have through by Awas is also a means of postvention. That means people come together and talk about their feelings and heal together and support each other. People bereaved by suicide. That one is specifically support group, but there's also postvention that Awas would go to. For instance, there's a suicide loss, suicide death happen in an area, in a housing area, residence. We go there, of course, with permission, and then we ask if they would like to be addressed. Like some residences are really affected, really traumatized by the death, because sometimes people witness it, sometimes people heard or saw what happened, and they need to process this, like Dr. Nina said. Every time, there's you have big emotions, you need to talk it out, right? And you need to process this. Trauma needs to be processed, because if not, it will stay in your body, and it will affect you, it will hurt you, cause you pain, and emotional pain, physical pain, and all that. So we go in, ours would go in, like the last time previously, recently, I went in with a psychiatrist, just because if I did not go with a psychiatrist, people would be like, what is she doing here, trying to, because sometimes the residents, the people, the community do not want to accept it as suicide, again, because of taboo, because of stigma. We're talking about here in Malaysia, yeah. And sometimes because the police investigation has not concluded it as suicide, although, sometimes we know it's suicide. It's just that they don't want to regard it as suicide. So we come in and we say, that's fine. You don't have to think of it as suicide. Just think of it as a traumatic death, that we are all affected. We are all impacted as community, because some of you are neighbors, some of you, some of your kids used to play with their kids, and things like that. So I'm sure,
So,
like, you
so
are.
KakNgah, maybe just to tell the audience, I think KakNgah was sharing is about some dams that happening from buildings, yeah, that jumps off, that something like that, is it? Yeah, that happened.
Yeah. If you notice, I from the beginning, I don't say about
Yeah,
how
yeah, yeah.
how how how
Sorry,
things
sorry about
happen.
it. Yeah,
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, it's just triggering for some, especially people who are
yeah,
vulnerable. The
yeah,
methods, usually, safe media reporting does not allow
yeah,
to
yeah. Okay.
specifically say, what are the methods. But yeah, for instance, let's say a suicide death, whatever the
That,
death
yeah,
is, it can be anything.
yeah.
Yeah. So we come in and give support and make sure that, because some of the residences would report, like, having nightmares, they cannot sleep at night, they would have to
Uh,
leave their homes for a while to,
yeah.
because of the images that they have in mind.
Uh,
The body is no longer there, but the trauma is there, so they're affected by it, and they need a safe space to process as a community. And of course, there's a lot of things, when suicide death happens, the media is always the first one to come and try to get things out of the residences. And
yeah.
so we will advise the people there to not to just only have one spokesperson from the among the residents, because when there are too many people talking about it, and then people speculate, people sensationalize. The problem with
Mm.
suicide loss survivors is, it's always the reporting, the details of
What
of the
happened?
person. Yeah, what happened. you know um it's one, it's to protect the privacy and the dignity of the family, and they're going through a really hard time, rough time, right? Having people saying all these things does not help. It will re-traumatize them, add more traumatize and burden to them, emotional burden. One. Two, for people who are vulnerable, right? When they read let's say they're already suicidal, let's say they have a really active, intrusive suicidal thought, and hearing somebody in the building died by suicide, right? That could trigger them to also do the same thing. It's like, oh, if that person can do it, I perhaps can do it too. Oh, this is another way to do it, or like it gives option. And yeah, yeah. But having said that, it's also important for people to know that it's okay to ask. Let's say we see, like Dr. Nina said, when you ask how are you, no, really, how are you, like get them to really speak and make sure they know that it's okay. It's okay to not be
Yeah,
okay. It's okay for them to
yeah,
share whatever they
yeah.
are they are struggling with.
Feelings. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
So, so
sorry.
that's how you're able to do the support. You go to the community and you talk to them. You go. Do you have a meeting and you everybody in, or you go like house to house?
Oh no, it's like recently it was a Zoom meeting. So we started the meeting. That there was like 60 people turn up, and so people
Um,
shared their views, shared their feelings. That's when it was like a community thing, and people come together and support, and they baca yasin together, and and then
okay.
there was a lot of things involved. But the fact that they are being addressed, it's important. The emotions, the
Yes,
the
yes.
the feeling unsafe, or and all those emotions are being addressed. So if they are experiencing, and then the psychiatrist came with me to share the talk,
Yeah.
to present as well. So she advised on the medical side. She said, if you're
Right.
not if you're not okay, these are all normal responses to trauma, right? Like not sleeping,
Right.
restlessness, anxiety, and all that. But
Yeah.
if
Yeah. Yeah.
this is prolonged, if all that you are experiencing is prolonged, let's say after 2 weeks, after 1 month, you're still struggling, it's affecting your functionality, you cannot, sleep and things like that, please seek help, because that means, you are affected by it, and perhaps it's become a disorder or illness that needs to be treated.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you
So
so much, KakNgah. I think before we end
you're
this, I
welcome.
just want to share this one slide here first about mental health. Yeah, Dr. Nina, I think, has already talked to us about this before. This slide, whatever information, you can go to ours. I got this from ours Facebook group, so you can go to her Facebook and ours. Look, you can search for it, and you can get all the information from ours if you need the support. Um, I think, Dr. Nina, you want to summarize on this, how important it is on mental health, how we can self-care, and it's all factors that comes in together.
you're muted.
Your message,
Okay.
can you see?
Okay.
Yeah. Your last
So
message as
in
regard to this, yeah.
so so before we listen to KakNgah's poem that she wants to share with us, just to summarize, I think what's important, and in previous mental health sessions series that we've had with you, Liz, it's
Yeah.
highlighting how there's so many variables around us that can contribute to good mental health. Okay, and
Yeah.
so what you're seeing is part of what the community can offer. So everyone and anyone outside of you yourself as a person. So you're looking at supporting your loved ones, having a decent living wage, affordable housing, being able to access mental health services, having parental or family support. Racial equity, there's no discrimination, and so on and so forth. But also things that you can do for yourself to ensure that you're in your best mental health state as much as you can. But this actually shows you the role of the community as well in helping everyone, and not just, oh, you're responsible for yourself and that's it. No, you're also in some ways indirectly responsible for other people, because we don't live on an island. We're all dependent on each other. The government, for example, or the health centers, schools, workplace, all of that contribute. All of that is actually really important to support a person's mental health. And awareness, it means that if you realize that one of those things are not working or are not helping, then and your mental health is kind of going out of balance, then seek help, seek support, do what you can, talk to people, do research, go out there, do as much as you can to make sure that that is somehow balanced again. Now, that's very hard within a COVID situation, where there are MCOs. Qatar is experiencing its own lockdown. We're in phase 3, though, so it's not as strict as the issue in Malaysia right now. But also because we don't have as many cases in Malaysia, it's pretty much very contained. The authorities here have done a splendid job, really, in trying to contain all the cases, and making sure that everyone is aware of the SOPs. Everyone, as much as they can, are vaccinated. In Qatar, for example, you cannot go into restaurants or hotels if you're not fully vaccinated. If you're 16 and above and you're not fully vaccinated, you are not allowed to. If you are a teacher, you cannot teach unless you are fully vaccinated. So I feel that in Qatar, it's easier to implement that. They have a much smaller population. They have a different form of government and a different way of handling the issues. But still, people are still affected by it. A lot of children have anxiety because they aren't able to go out and socialize and meet. So I think just as a conclusion, this is really hard topic, But I wish and I hope that people, and I know it's KakNgah's wish as well as Hannah's wish, and of course yours, Liz, for people to keep talking about this, no matter how uncomfortable it makes them, because you don't know how that can help another person. You know, just getting, at first it starts to be uncomfortable, but after a while, you start, it starts becoming less difficult and less hard, and it's still going to be very emotional to talk about, but at least, it's out there. People are aware. People look at that in a different way. I know KakNgah really wants for everyone, and Hannah as well, to look at this with compassionate eyes, with empathic eyes, rather than judgment and scorn. And
Thank you so much, Dr. Nina. And I think that's why me and Hannah is doing this campaign for Ain Husniza, right? Because we can see, she's 70 years old. She's doing her, doing her SPM this year, and now she got defamation suit for 5 million.
I heard that.
For just telling whatever she feels online, and she gets people bullying her online. I cannot imagine that's why I came up with the campaign of raising funds for her to get the mental health support as well, so that she get the right support, so that she won't go through like what Hannah was going through when she was in school. This, and now it's not just bullying at home, or at school, physically or verbally, but it's now you see people doing it online. And people can just easily, hide it, like Hannah said, hiding behind the screen of the computer. They think whatever they say, they can just say it without no responsibility. So Hannah, maybe what is your last message to the audience for you as a suicide survivor? What is your message to the others?
I think it's just the same thing that everybody else has spoken about before this. Look at this with empathy. Because it's really hard now, harder. Post-pandemic, things are harder than ever. Just have that compassion. And given that everybody's online, don't put out things without compassion or without taking responsibility for them. That's it.
Thank you, Hannah. Okay, KakNgah, we're ready for your poem. And tell us before your poem, you have any last message, and then you can read your poem before we close our session.
Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. I have to say thank you for sharing all your stories. It's really beautiful to connect with you. Thank you, Dr. Nina. You're very brave to come out for the first time, since Mamaliez pun not aware of you being a suicidal survivor.
Yeah.
How does it feel to get it out of your chest? Tell me.
I'm probably going to still cry after this, just because I feel I need to process it. It feels better. It feels better. I want to talk about this person more, because I have so many memories of this person, and I wish that whoever who is aware, want to listen to me, maybe share memories and talk and stuff. And I know who they are. I'm talking to the audience, of course. But yeah, I think it's been cathartic to be able to share that. I actually had kering. I actually don't cry a lot. I've been people tease me kata ayah kering kan, but with this it's still raw, it's difficult. So so this is now for posterity, because this is now up on YouTube and it's live.
How often do we
answer
get
your question, it's been good. It's been helpful.
Alhamdulillah. That's really good to know. And how often do we get to see a psychologist crying kan? So it's good that it's on YouTube.
I made sure to wear waterproof mascara.
Psychologist crying is not a keyword we are attaching to this video. Okay? No, not that.
That means we have a psychologist with heart. You see, she talks with her heart. That's the most important thing.
That's true. Yeah, this is
Okay,
beautiful.
so
Okay.
KakNgah, your
Yeah.
message, your
My
last
last
message.
words. Support is a keyword here. People who are struggling should not be alone, should not struggle alone. So please support, please reach out. For the people who can see other people who are struggling, please reach out to help. And for the people who are struggling, please no, for the people who are struggling, please reach out. And the people who can see other people struggling, please reach in to help. It goes both ways. Support is the key here, because support is everything. I feel, support can make a whole difference in somebody's life. And don't judge them, don't marah them, don't be angry at them. They're we all need compassion, we all go through pain and struggles. And yeah, so please be human enough to support each other. And yeah, be
No
compassionate.
need lah, no need to say lah neraka, masuk neraka ke semua tu. Tak
Yeah,
payah cakap.
yeah,
Don't need to judge and all that. We're all
exactly,
human beings here. Okay,
exactly.
KakNgah, you have your
All right.
poetry?
Yes, so this poetry was done and completed on the 19th of September 2019. It's called Sesalan Aku. It's a dual language, both English and Malay. But the title is Sesalan Aku. Do you know what it feels like to lose someone to suicide? Exactly. Not a clue, right? Aku sesal dan kesal. Maafkan aku bebal. Ada ada degree psikologi konon, but failed to see you were troubled and so alone. Ku kata kau attention seeking. Ku fikir elok saja kau dimarah dipenting. Walhal kau pernah berdiri di hujung situ, aku tetap bebal dengan pendirianku. Memaling muka mengharap ia berlalu. Mengaku lemah, ku pasti kau tak mahu. The pressure mounted, your mental health deteriorated. You didn't want to be a burden. As a result, we lose you out of a sudden. My assumption was far from right. You took your life that night. No, it was not seeking for attention. It was certainly a grave plight. Charming and loved by many, smart enough to be nominated a valedictorian. You made us all very proud. But what the hell? Boys don't cry. Man up, they say. You suffered in silence, fighting battles and demons we know nothing about. Sekarang aku pula yang menghidapi penyakit depresi dan anxiety ini. Sugul melampau, jantungku kencang, perut memulas, peluh sebesar ibu jari. Siang dibelenggu, hiba tak bertepi, malam diganggu, mimpi-mimpi ngeri. Penyiksaan jiwa kau dah lenyap, kini ku tanggung derita dalam senyap. Aku dah habis esak, aku dah tak larat penat. Aku kian hilang kudrat, benak fikiranku semakin sarat. God knows I've committed a crime for ignoring all the signs. Forever I will be locked up behind those invisible bars of guilt. Aku bersalah, sangkaanku kau hanya tagihkan perhatian. Aku bersalah kerana tak sedar engkau dalam kemurungan. Kekuburkan di bawah penyesalan ini, deritaku tukar sumpah dan janji. Pemangkin pendidikan dan pengajaran agar kesihatan mental tidak lagi dipandang ringan. Ku meniti pusara sepi, kasih dan ingatan segar tak henti. Mencari maksud dan juga erti. Keyakinanku penuh, tiap ajal di tanganmu ilahi. Ku serah segalanya pada yang maha mengetahui.
Oh,
Thank you.
that's amazing, KakNgah. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful poem. And thank you for everyone for really joining us today. Today is a very, very powerful show with powerful women with amazing big heart. I think I'm so proud to have all of you today on my first panel of session in a very important subject, and we are all just human beings. We're all just doing our best. And you guys are just amazingly sharing your experience and knowledge and with the audience. And this today is a legacy for others to keep forever on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn. And thank you. And we hope we can continue this together. together we can stand stronger. Okay, I mean for thank you everyone. I hope to
Thank
see you
you for
guys
having
again.
us, sis. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, KakNgah. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Hannah, KakNgah, and Dr. Nina. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Tunggu jangan KakNgah jangan keluar lagi.
Okay.